Yeah.
I've seen a lot of trends come and go in my comments. I post a lot of videos, hundreds and hundreds of videos and articles and so forth, and you'll see comments, and you start to see trends. For a while there, it was all wives are borderline. The borderline personality disorder thing that came and went. You don't see that much anymore. Now we've moved on to narcissist, and one that I hear a lot of is the accountability thing, which is women just don't have accountability. Oh, God forbid a woman, say, yeah, you're right, I'm a little at fault here when it comes to this. These stereotypes don't just fall from the sky. There's something to that when men say that. It's tough for women in our lives to say, it seems from our perspective, it's tough for women in our lives to say, I'm sorry, I apologize, or God forbid, yeah, you're right, my bad. We don't hear that very
Was
often
wrong.
as men. We don't hear that very often. I'm wrong, yeah. And I don't know if you saw, I did some videos, one of which went pretty viral. It got like 7 million views or something like that. And I did two videos where I said, one for men and one for women. What if your partner came up to you and said, I don't like how you're looking physically? I'm not turned on right now. This is not working for me. You need to do something about this. And I said, one for men and one for women. And the men, 87, I'd like tabulated all these. 87% of the responses are what I would call positive in nature, which was like, oh, shit, I better work on this. I don't want to lose my wife. What do I got to do? Sorry about that. Yada, yada. Hit the gym. Men take it their mission to lose a bunch of weight. And then 90+% of the women said, go F yourself. I don't have to do anything. And that was very alarming to a lot of people, like, oh, wow. And then the excuse was, well, and this is perfectly valid explanation. Well, Ralph, how you worded the two videos, they weren't exactly alike. It could be argued I was a little nicer to the men, but on the women's side, I accidentally threw in the bit about ever since we've had children, you've really let yourself go. And women said, oh, that's what a way to push a button in women. You shouldn't have said that. So I said, okay, cool. So I waited like 6 months and I redid the experiment, and I made the videos exactly the same. I didn't make any mention of babies or anything like that, and the results were pretty much the same. Women saying, go F yourself. We don't have to do anything. It's like, well, that's not good. Let's do a different one about attitude. Ladies, your attitude stinks. Men, your attitude stinks. And the men, your attitude stinks, didn't really get much of a response at all, good or bad. It was mostly positive, like, well, I guess I better shape up, because I think men are used to hearing that. Like, you're kind of a grumpy asshole, cut it out, mister. But the women were, again, go F yourself. Don't you realize I'm overstressed? I'm over this. I'm way overwhelmed as a mother. I really don't need to hear from my husband, you got a shitty attitude. So, you can take that little comment and shove it, mister. So we're like, well, does this point to a lack of accountability on the part of the women? Is that a cultural thing? What do you think's going on here?
Women as a whole, I actually heard this from Dr. Peterson, Jordan Peterson. And he said that women experience negative emotion or
Hmm.
take in negativity at a 10 times greater rate than men. And so I do think that plays into it. But ultimately, I don't understand why us women are like this. And I am I consider myself like a very goal driven type of female. I always like to improve and constantly be trying to do, what's best, trying to be the best wife that I can be for my husband. And I don't know if that's just because I'm just very goal driven. I don't think most females are like this. We just we have a hard time, no matter how soft or kind or loving. You could do the whole sandwich method where you say a compliment at the beginning and then you deliver the blow in the middle and then the compliment at the end. No matter what, there's going to be backlash. What you guys have to realize, though, is that what needs to be said in your relationship needs to be said. So if there is a concern, a lot of guys, what I think is the problem is that they just won't say it. And I always say, guys got to get over this. You just have to get over this. There's going to be some backlash. And women do have this false notion that we just should be loved no matter what. And I disagree with that. Now, of course, you want to be loved. Maybe I should retract that. Let me rewind, because yes, your husband should love you. However, you should also notice that attraction is different from love. He might still love you, but he can not be attracted to you. He might still love you, but not be proud of you, not be proud to have you by his side. So there's a very different, in my mind, of, hey, not only do I want my husband to love me, I want him to be proud of me. I want him to be attracted to me. And I think that's where maybe if we had the women dissected a little bit down, of course a man should love you, no, I wouldn't say no matter what, but he just might not be attracted to you anymore, and that's a whole different topic.
And that is something that I pointed out that, and I got a lot of backlash on this, but this is, I have to preface it by saying, my audience, the people that I talk to, it is not representative of the society as a whole by any stretch of the imagination. So, of the subset of people that are attracted to my material and are wound up enough to comment or actually reach out to me via direct message or email, the general theme I get is one of, hey, dude, this is your wife is not attracted to you anymore. What do you think of that? And the general reply from some of these men, and a lot of these men are what we call kind of anxious in nature, is like, oh crap, what can I do to fix? And they will research the hell out of it, read every book, podcasts, YouTubes, and everything else to try and, build the bridge between he and the wife. While the wives often come to me and say, I don't get it, my husband doesn't want me sexually anymore, for example. I've checked his phone for porn. I've checked his phone for, possible affairs and everything else. What a lot of these women do is look for outside reasons for why this disconnect is happening. Because in their mind, surely it ain't me.
It can't be me.
Can't be me.
Perfect.
Again, that's not a representative of the general population, but that's of the women that reach out to me. That's the general message I get. And I have to tell them, I'm sorry, this may be heartbreaking to you, but some of that shallow stuff matters. Looks, attitude, femininity, bubbliness. Are you a supportive, positive person to be around? Are you taking care of yourself physically? And women don't take that too well. Well, no, I've gained 80 pounds since I had the children, but you know what? That shouldn't matter. Are you trying to tell me, Ralph, that matters? Because if it does, he's an asshole. I'm like,
right.
I'm sorry. It does. It matters. And I say the exact same thing to dudes. You've let yourself go, mister. The example I often give is I talked to a guy who was a Division I collegiate swimmer. So talk about top of the heap looks-wise, athletic-wise. He really looked the part, and that was a big reason why there was an initial attraction between his wife towards him. Like, wow, I got this tall, hunky swimmer guy. And then he gets married and he's like, I don't have to do that shit anymore, and gains a ton of weight and just becomes this boring schlub of a husband. And he's like, how come we don't have that much of that connection anymore? I'm like, well, dude, maybe you need to go back to some of the old you. He's like, oh, yeah, never really thought of it that way. You're right. And he worked out himself, lost a bunch of weight, and voila, the wife said, I got my husband back. And how often does that happen? Maybe not that often, but it's out there. It's a story I hear quite often, but I don't hear it much flip-flop the other way.